There are bad bikes, and then there are bikes that make you question if the manufacturer even owns a motorcycle license. Some bikes are born out of weird experiments, corporate denial, or just straight up laziness. Others, they try so hard to be different that they end up being completely useless. And worst of all, some of these bikes trick people with flashy marketing, a low price tag, or a quirky look, only to leave them full of regret 6 months down the road. So today, we're diving into the ones you should avoid at all costs. Not just because they're ugly, not just because they're underpowered, but because they're motorcycles that simply shouldn't exist. And if you bought one of these, I'm not saying you're stupid. I'm saying you got fooled. And I'm here to make sure it doesn't happen again. Let's roll. Number 1. BMW G650X Moto. The bike BMW immediately regretted. Now, on paper, this thing looked promising. A lightweight supermoto from BMW with a 650cc single-cylinder engine? Sounds fun, right? Well, here's a problem. BMW didn't really want to make this bike in the first place. The G650X Moto was part of a short-lived trio of G-bikes in the late 2000s, built in partnership with Aprilia using a Rototax engine that had already been around for a while. But BMW tried to dress it up like a street hooligan machine, except it wasn't reliable enough for long-distance riding, wasn't competitive enough for hardcore supermoto fans, and wasn't refined enough for daily commuters. Worst of all, BMW abandoned the entire lineup almost instantly. You can barely find parts, the dealer network won't touch it, and you'll be lucky if someone even knows how to work on the weird suspension setup. It's a bike with no tribe, no future, no aftermarket, no support. It's the motorcycle equivalent of someone starting a new band, releasing one album, then vanishing to join a yoga cult in Peru. It's not the worst riding bike you'll ever throw a leg over, but it's one of the worst decisions you can make if you ever plan to keep your sanity, your wallet, or your patience. Number 2. Honda CTX 700, the couch nobody asked for. If someone asked you to describe the most boring motorcycle ever made, you'd probably come up with something a lot like the Honda CTX 700. It's part cruiser, part commuter, part scooter, and 100% confused. Honda launched this thing with the brilliant idea that people wanted a cruiser-style bike with a forward-set riding position, a low seat, a 670cc parallel twin, and a DCT automatic transmission. Basically, they were targeting people who didn't like motorcycles but still wanted to ride one. The result? A motorcycle that doesn't really ride like a motorcycle at all. The CTX 700 handles like a wet sponge, sounds like a microwave, and has the styling of a melted Goldwing. It's somehow too boring for beginners and too uninspiring for experienced riders. And good luck trying to sell it, because nobody knows what it is and nobody wants it. Don't get me wrong, Honda makes great bikes. The DCT transmission works beautifully on bikes like the Africa Twin or the Goldwing. But on this, it feels like a scooter pretending to be a cruiser that accidentally fell asleep. If you want a reliable low-stress commuter, there are better options. If you want a cruiser, there are better options. The only reason to buy a CTX 700 is if you got it in a trade for an expired can of soup. Number 3. Victory Vision. The space couch nobody asked for. Look, I respect what Victory was trying to do. They wanted to stand out in the big touring market dominated by Harley and Honda. But the Victory Vision, it looks like a Star Trek prop crashed into a lazy boy. The styling is, well, polarizing is putting it nicely. Some call it futuristic, others call it a swollen sea creature. Either way, it's one of the most bizarre-looking motorcycles ever put into production. The giant front fairing, swooping bodywork, and massive tail section give it the silhouette of a luxury land yacht, except with worse handling. Riding it feels like you're steering a canoe through syrup. It's heavy, over 850 pounds, with low-speed handling that makes parking a nightmare. And even though it came with all the creature comforts, cruise control, heated grips, stereo system, it felt like Victory stuffed it with tech just to say, "Me too," not because it all worked well. And then Victory shut down. So now you got a giant plastic spaceship nobody wanted to begin with, made by a brand that doesn't exist anymore, with parts that are drying up like a gas tank in Death Valley. If you find one cheap and you think you're getting a luxury bargain, think again. You're buying a bike that never fit in, never found its place, and now just collects dust in the "what were they thinking" aisle of motorcycle history. Number 4. Hyosung Aquila GV250, the cruiser built to disappoint. At first glance, the Hyosung GV250 doesn't look half bad. It's got the chrome, it's got the V-twin shape, it looks like a small Shadow or even a mini Virago. But once you actually sit on it, ride it, or God forbid, try to maintain it, you'll realize exactly what it is. A knockoff cruiser held together by hope and plastic. The GV250 is supposed to be Hyosung's answer to the entry-level cruiser market. But the engine feels like it's been dragged out of a lawnmower, the suspension is budget bin bouncy, and the build quality is one step above a Happy Meal toy. Paint starts fading after a summer, bolts rattle loose like it's part of a challenge, and wiring looks like someone studied it on YouTube in the dark. And good luck finding parts. Hyosung dealers come and go like pop-up Halloween stores. You'll spend more time on forums looking for fixes than you will on the road. And when something breaks, and it will, it'll be for a part that no other bike on earth uses. Sure, it's cheap, but there's a difference between affordable and a waste of money. A used Japanese 250 cruiser from 20 years ago will give you a better experience than this plastic potato. The GV250 is the bike that says, "I wanted to ride, but I didn't want to commit to it." Number 5. Energica Eva SSA9. Electric nostalgia nobody asked for. On paper, the Energica Eva SSA9 sounds like a cool concept. An old-school cafe racer look fused with cutting-edge electric tech. It's supposed to combine style and sustainability, but in reality, it combines the worst parts of both. This thing weighs a hefty 573 pounds, which is insane for a naked bike. That's Harley territory. Twist the throttle and sure, you get torque, but it feels like dragging a refrigerator on rollerblades. The range? Around 100 miles if you're lucky, and significantly less if you ride it like a real motorcycle. And that's before age and degradation start chipping away at it, like rust on a 70s BSA. Charging times? Bring a sandwich. Even with level 2 charging, it's not exactly quick, and good luck finding fast chargers out in the sticks. That makes it a commuter at best, and an expensive one at that. You're paying Ducati Street Fighter money for something that performs like a confused moped with a gym membership. And don't get me started on maintenance. Yes, electric bikes have fewer moving parts. But Energica's proprietary systems are notoriously finicky. And guess what? Dealers are rare, support is thin, and nobody knows how to work on these things unless you live in a tech bubble city. It tries to be nostalgic and futuristic at the same time, and fails both. It's the mullet of motorcycles. Classy up front, techie in the back, and somehow still a bad decision. Number 6. Ural Gear Up. Soviet nostalgia that'll leave you stranded. If you've never heard of Ural, here's the elevator pitch. It's a Russian-made motorcycle with a sidecar that looks like it rolled off the front lines of World War II, because it basically did. The design is based on a 1930s BMW, and they've barely updated it since. That might sound charming until you actually ride one. The Ural Gear Up is heavy, underpowered, and steers like a shopping cart with a flat tire. It's got a 750cc air-cooled Boxer twin that makes less horsepower than most modern scooters, and yes, it's built for rugged terrain and sidecar hauling. But that's like saying a wheelbarrow is great for cross-country travel if you just believe hard enough. Now let's talk reliability. Ural fans like to pretend it's quirky. But what they really mean is you'll be wrenching on it constantly. It's infamous for electrical issues, oil leaks, janky welds, and parts that feel like they were machined with a butter knife. And since they're niche, finding service or parts is a nightmare, especially since the company shifted production out of Russia in recent years due to sanctions and supply chaos. Worst part? It's not even cheap. The Gear Up costs more than a well-equipped Africa Twin. That's right, you're paying ADV bike money for a glorified tractor with a sidecar and hoping it doesn't disassemble itself on the highway. If you buy one, you're not retro, you're just asking for trouble. Number 7. Suzuki GZ250, the cruiser that time forgot. If motorcycles were high school students, the Suzuki GZ250 would be the kid who never spoke, never moved, and somehow still failed gym class. This bike was supposed to be Suzuki's beginner-friendly cruiser, but instead of giving riders a proper intro into the world of motorcycling, it gave them a lesson in mediocrity. The GZ250 is slow, awkward, and so bland you could park one next to a wall and forget which one is which. Let's start with power, or lack of it. The single-cylinder 250cc engine makes just enough horsepower to keep you from getting run over in a school zone. Twist the throttle, and it groans like it's being forced to do something it doesn't want to. And highway speeds? Forget it. You'll be vibrating like a jackhammer just trying to keep up with traffic. Styling? Generic cruiser. Performance? Anemic. Handling? Floaty. Brakes? Spongy. It's as if Suzuki was scared of making it too fun just in case someone might actually enjoy riding it. But here's the real kicker. Suzuki didn't even bother to evolve the thing. It stayed practically the same for years, then poof, gone. No fanfare, no legacy, just a whisper in the history books of motorcycles that nobody misses. Sure, it's cheap, but so's a rusty lawn chair, and that won't try to kill you when merging into freeway traffic. If you're buying a first bike, do yourself a favor and start with one that actually wants to be ridden. Number 8. Benelli Tornado 302R, the sport bike that forgot what sport means. Benelli, the once glorious Italian marquee now owned by a Chinese manufacturer, decided it was time to jump into the entry-level sport bike game. Enter the Tornado 302R, a bike that looks like it should be tearing up the track, but handles more like it's auditioning for a traffic cone. Let's start with the name, Tornado. You'd expect speed, agility, drama. What you get instead is a 400-pound lightweight bike with all the urgency of a hungover snail. The 300cc parallel twin makes just under 40 horsepower, which wouldn't be terrible if the bike didn't weigh more than some 600cc supersports. The steel trellis frame adds visual flair, but also packs on the pounds. The result? A sport bike that feels sluggish in the corners and slow off the line. And while it might look aggressive and edgy from a distance, get closer and you'll notice the budget build quality creeping in. Panels don't always line up. Fasteners are made of cheese. And electronics, best described as aspirational. Even the exhaust sounds flat and uninspired. More Blender than Beast. For a brand with Italian heritage, the 302R has all the soul of a malfunctioning copier. You can get a Yamaha R3 or Kawasaki Ninja 400 for the same price, and they'll eat this thing for breakfast and then laugh at its paint job. Benelli tried to make a statement. All they did was prove that a flashy design can't hide a half-baked bike. Number 9. Royal Enfield Continental GT 535. The retro that forgot the road. Before the new generation of 650 twins won over the world, Royal Enfield had a different idea. Let's build a retro cafe racer that looks cool, sounds decent, and handles like a shopping cart on gravel. Enter the Continental GT 535. It came out looking like the spiritual successor to every London rocker's dream bike. But once you threw a leg over it, the dream ended. It had the charm, sure, but none of the execution. Let's talk engine. A single-cylinder 535cc lump that vibrated like a paint mixer and produced less power than a pizza oven. Yes, it had character, but it also had reliability issues, inconsistent fueling, and a reputation for oil leaks that would make a Triumph blush. The riding position was aggressive, but not in the good way. The clip-ons were low, the seat was firm, and the suspension was tuned for vintage road authenticity, which is marketing speak for your spine will hate you. Take it around a corner and it'll wobble like it's second-guessing your choices. Worst part, it wasn't even cheap. You could get a modern Japanese 500cc for the same price with better performance, fewer headaches, and handling that doesn't feel like you're riding on antique furniture. This bike is for people who care more about cafe racer selfies than actual cafe racer riding. It's all aesthetic, no logic. And the moment Royal Enfield launched the 650 Twin, they basically admitted it too. Number 10. BMW K1200 LT. The couch that tries to kill you on tight turns. If the Honda Goldwing is the gold standard for luxury touring, the BMW K1200 LT is the overcomplicated German attempt to one-up it. And, in true BMW fashion, they added 20 pounds of electronics, forgot the soul, and somehow made it feel worse to ride. Let's be clear, this bike is massive, nearly 900 pounds wet, with the weight distributed like a bowling ball taped to a shopping cart. It's got power, sure. The inline 4 makes decent grunt. But maneuvering this beast at parking lot speeds is like trying to do ballet with a refrigerator strapped to your chest. The K1200 LT was loaded with features. Power center stand, reverse gear, cruise control, heated grips, integrated stereo, the works. Sounds nice, right? Until something breaks. Then you're paying BMW dealer labor rates to fix a powered center stand because you couldn't lift the thing manually. Handling is vague, especially in tight corners, and while it's stable on the highway, it feels terrifying in city traffic. The moment you dip it into a turn, you're fighting its weight like a rodeo clown on roller skates. Worst of all, it wasn't built to last. The final drives are infamous for failing. The electronics go haywire, plastic panels snap like Pringles, and when it breaks, and it will, it becomes a very expensive sculpture in your garage. If you want a luxury tourer, buy a Goldwing. If you want a BMW, get something lighter. If you want the K1200 LT, just buy a car. You'll have more fun, more comfort, and fewer hernias. Number 11. Lifan KP200. The bargain bin mistake you'll regret fast. There's budget friendly, and then there's you should have known better. The Lifan KP200 falls hard into that second category. On the surface, it seems appealing. A sporty little 200cc bike for under $2,500 brand new? That's cheaper than most used Japanese bikes. It's fuel injected, has a digital dash, and even comes with a decent paint job. But the second you start riding it, you realize exactly where every corner was cut. The build quality is shockingly bad. Plastic panels rattle, bolts back out after a few hundred miles, and the electronics, best described as hope-based. 1 minute your tack is working, the next it's having a seizure. The speedo, you'll be guessing, not reading. Performance-wise, it's okay for back roads, but try to ride it like a real motorcycle and it starts falling apart. The suspension is soft and vague, the brakes are spongy, and the clutch feels like it's made of rubber bands. You'll spend more time adjusting things than enjoying the ride. And the parts? Good luck. Dealers are rare, support is thin, and aftermarket options are nearly non-existent. It's the kind of bike that makes you realize why people tell beginners to stick with Japanese machines. Sure, you saved a few $100 up front, but when your chain snaps, your fuel line leaks, and your throttle sticks open in traffic, you'll wish you spent that extra cash. Number 12. Cleveland CycleWorks Heist. The chopper with no cause. You know those fake guitars they sell in mall kiosks that look cool from 10 feet away but feel like plastic when you pick them up? That's the Cleveland CycleWorks Heist, but in motorcycle form. This was meant to be a minimalist bobber-style bike aimed at younger riders who wanted something custom-looking without paying Harley or Indian prices. And from a distance, kinda works. It's low, sleek, blacked out, and looks the part. But once you actually ride it, you'll realize it's all sizzle and zero steak. The engine is a 229cc Chinese copy of a Honda CG125 lump, which sounds fine in theory. Honda clones are usually reliable, but the execution here is awful. The quality control is so bad that some owners reported bikes arriving with loose bolts, missing welds, and mystery electrical gremlins before even hitting 100 miles. The brakes are weak, the suspension is garbage, and the geometry, it feels like it was designed by someone who's never ridden a motorcycle before. It's twitchy in the corners and sketchy at high speeds, which makes it a bobber that doesn't want to cruise and a lightweight that doesn't want to corner. And don't even get me started on parts or support. Cleveland Cycle Works was always a niche boutique brand, and their network is laughably small. If you need a new clutch cable or ignition coil, you might be scouring Facebook groups for months. This bike is more garage art than real motorcycle. Don't fall for the looks. It's cosplay, not craftsmanship. Now look, if you bought one of these bikes, don't take it personally. We've all made a dumb purchase or two. But the real mistake is doubling down on a bad decision just because it looked cool or came cheap. The good news? You're smarter now. You've seen behind the curtain. And next time, you'll pick a bike that doesn't make you question your life choices every time you hit the ignition. So, did I roast your ride? Or did I miss one that's even worse? Drop it in the comments and let's hear your take. And if you made it this far, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned, because we're not done calling out the dumb stuff just yet. Ride smart, skip the mistakes, and keep the rubber side down.